So there's this legitimate philosophical theory that says your mind is pretty much just a spectator, a passenger.
It's got a big, fancy name. Epiphenomenalist dualism. I know, it's a mouthful. But the core idea is actually pretty simple. It says that all the physical stuff happening in your brain, neurons firing, chemicals zipping around, that's what creates your thoughts and feelings. But, and this is the crucial part, those thoughts and feelings can't then circle back and cause anything to happen in the physical world. It's a complete one-way street. The best analogy for this is a shadow. Your body casts a shadow, right? And wherever your body moves, the shadow follows along perfectly. But the shadow itself, it's powerless. It can't pick up a rock. It can't push open a door. It has zero causal effect on the world. This theory is saying your consciousness is exactly like that shadow, just cast by your brain instead of your body. Now, this is where the theory just flips our everyday experience completely upside down. Imagine you touch a hot stove. You feel that sharp sting of pain, and you yank your hand away. We all assume the feeling of pain caused you to pull your hand back. But epiphenomenalism says, nope, a physical process in your brain caused both things to happen at the same time. It created the feeling of pain, and it sent the signal to your muscles to pull your hand away. The feeling itself was just along for the ride. So this whole idea of a powerless consciousness, it creates a massive problem when it runs into the theory of evolution. So just a quick refresher on how natural selection works, right? You get random changes in an organism's genes. If a change leads to a trait that helps that creature survive and have kids, say sharper claws or better camouflage, that trait gets passed down. And if a trait is useless or even harmful, it tends to just fade away over time. And here's the fundamental conflict, laid out side by side. Evolution only favors traits that actually do something, traits that causally help an animal survive. But epiphenomenalism claims that consciousness does nothing. It has no causal effects. You can see how these two ideas are in a direct stare-down. This all leads to the million-dollar question. If feeling pain, or fear, or love, or anything else doesn't actually do anything to help you survive, why on earth would nature bother producing it? From an evolutionary point of view, a complex, energy-hungry trait that's completely useless should have been kicked to the curb millions of years ago.
But hold on, this story doesn't end there. A philosopher named Frank Jackson came up with a really clever way out of this paradox. And believe it or not, it all comes down to a polar bear's coat.
So Jackson's big idea is this. What if consciousness wasn't a trait that was selected for directly? What if, instead, it's just an unavoidable side effect, a byproduct of other stuff in the brain that is incredibly useful for survival? To explain this, he uses this brilliant analogy. A polar bear evolved a super thick coat. Why? For warmth. That's a massive survival advantage in the Arctic. But a coat that's super thick is also, inevitably, super heavy. Now, the heaviness is actually a disadvantage. It slows the bear down. But evolution couldn't get the thickness without also getting the heaviness. You see, the heaviness wasn't the point. It was just part of the package deal. The benefit of the warmth was so huge that it completely outweighed the cost of the extra weight. So the heavy coat just came along for the ride, not because it was useful in itself, but because you couldn't separate it from a very, very useful trait. And now we can draw a direct line back to the brain. The useful trait, the thick coat, is our brain's incredibly complex physical machinery, the stuff that lets us solve problems, find food, work together, all critical for survival. And this theory suggests that consciousness is just the heavy coat, the unavoidable, inseparable byproduct of all that useful complexity.